So let's talk about Bitcoin's price swings. They're legendary, right? They can feel chaotic, super stressful, and sometimes even personal. But what if I told you we've been looking at this whole volatility thing completely backward? Today, we're going to flip this concept on its head, and not with some complicated chart, but with a simple story. So, our story kicks off with a classic setup. Think of it like a joke. Picture this, a support group, but it's not for what you might think. It's for anxious crypto investors. A new guy shuffles in, takes a seat. All right, so he gets up, kind of shuffles his feet, and introduces himself to the group. This is Nick. And Nick, well, he's basically all of us, isn't he? You know, someone who totally believes in the long-term vision, but gets completely sucked into the noise of the day-to-day. He says, "Hi, I am Nick, long-term hodler. I totally believe in Bitcoin for the next 10 years. And I've checked the price 42 times this morning." And you can just feel it, right? The collective sigh in the room. This one hits a little too close to home for everybody there. Then the therapist, super calm and collected, just leans forward and says, "Nick, that's not hodling. That is taking your emotions hostage with a 1-minute chart." Boom. And that's our first big insight, isn't it? This massive conflict between what we say we're going to do long term and what we actually do minute by minute. And then things get weird. The lights flicker, a giant glowing Bitcoin logo just pops up on the video call, and it starts talking. It says, "I am not volatile. Your attention span is just stuck in 2017. Whoa, what a twist, right? Bitcoin itself is basically saying, hey, this isn't a me problem, it's a you problem. It's shifting the blame from its price action to our perception. And then it just drops this killer line. If a 15-minute red candle can destroy your 4-year plan, you didn't have a plan. You had a wish with Wi-Fi. Man, that just cuts right to the heart of it. It perfectly separates having a real, well-researched strategy from just, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Okay, so what's the deeper meaning here? This whole story isn't just a funny anecdote. It shines a spotlight on a fundamental truth. The thing that's crashing isn't Bitcoin's code or its protocol. A lot of the time, the thing that's really crashing is our own mindset. And this really lays out the two sides of the coin. On one side, you've got Bitcoin. It runs on pure, cold, hard, predictable logic. A fixed supply of 21 million, that's it. A new block roughly every 10 minutes. A halving that happens like clockwork every 4 years. And on the other side, well, that's us, humans. We're all about emotion, totally unpredictable, sometimes irrational, and man, are we driven by fear and greed. So let's just get one thing straight. What was Bitcoin even designed for in the first place? It was meant to be a long-term store of value. It was meant to be censorship-resistant money, a transparent settlement layer. What it was never, ever designed to be was your emotional support animal for the 5-minute price chart. And that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. We've got to stop looking at volatility as the enemy. We need to start seeing it for what it actually is, which is basically the price of admission to this whole new world. So, back in our support group, the therapist drops this bombshell of an idea. Volatility is not punishment, it's tuition. And that is the real aha moment. It's the cost you pay to get an education in a brand new, world-changing financial system. So the only real question is, how are you going to choose to pay for it? And look, you'd basically have 2 ways to pay this tuition. Path number 1, you can pay in panic. Selling at the bottom, making emotional calls, and just living with all that stress and regret. Or there's path number 2. You can pay with patience and education and use those gut-wrenching moments as a reason to actually learn something new. Okay, so that sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How do we turn this new way of thinking into something we actually do and transform those stomach-churning price dips into valuable lessons we can use? Well, in our story, Bitcoin itself tells us exactly how. It says simple. When the price goes down, your IQ about Bitcoin should go up. 1 dip equals 1 lesson. I mean, this just flips the entire script, doesn't it? Suddenly, a red candle isn't something to fear. It's a trigger, a call to action. So what does that actually look like? Well, every single time your phone buzzes with one of those price alerts, you just commit to one tiny learning action. Seriously, that's it. Maybe you read just 1 paragraph of the original Bitcoin white paper. Or maybe you watch a quick 2-minute video that explains the halving. Or you just learn one new term like UTXO or cold storage. Just small, consistent steps. That's the key. And what happens over time is you create this amazing split. Look, the price chart is going to be all over the place. That's just a given. It's going to look like a crazy roller coaster. But your knowledge chart, that can be a beautiful, steady line, always moving up and to the right. See, you can't control the price, but you have 100% control over how much you understand. Ultimately, what you're really doing is upgrading your time horizon. Just like Bitcoin said in our story, it's trying to get you to switch from a TikTok time horizon, where you're obsessed with the next 15 seconds, to a halving cycle horizon, where you're thinking in years. That's where real perspective comes from. All right, so as we start to land this plane, it all really boils down to one final reflective question. And this is a real gut check for anyone who's ever found themselves glued to a price chart. So I want you to be honest with yourself. Are you hodling Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin hodling your emotions? Seriously, think about it. The answer to that question, it doesn't just define your strategy, it pretty much defines your entire journey in this space. It's the difference between being a passenger getting thrown around on a roller coaster and being the person who's actually learning how the whole thing is built.